welcome back to another training session from Paul Vincenti International. Today we're going to talk about those crazy objections which sometimes people come up with. And we're going to learn quickly how to overcome these. Let's understand first of all, what is an objection? An objection could be a sign of interest. In fact, most of the time it is. When people object, they're showing some kind of interest in you, or the seller, in that case, making a request for them to make a purchase. Sometimes they object because they need to sell the case back to somebody else behind the scenes. You don't always get to see this. So if you're out with a person or a couple who are interested in buying a house and they object, and even sometimes the objections can be quite hard, they could be going back to discuss it with their mum and dad, for example, because they know their mum and dad will object to putting money forward to buy that place. So they've got all the objections handled and they can handle mum and dad behind your back. So never take an objection as a barrier, a no. Always see it as a possibility or a buying interest. Also, however, be realistic, because it could also be they have some doubts and fears about buying. And we spoke about that in another video. The fear and the doubt about buying is countered by knowledge and information. So you've got to give them lots of information and knowledge. Some agents hold back on the information and knowledge, fearful that if I give them too much, they might object. Do the opposite. Give them all they need to know. Then they can make an informed decision. Now, a condition is not an objection. A condition is an actual barrier to buying. So for example, they run out of money. There is a condition here. They can't buy because their budget's expired. So make sure you know the difference between the two now, so that you know what you're dealing with. Now, depending on what you're dealing with, really, you need to make sure that when you deal with people who are either objecting or presenting conditions, that you don't get into an argument. If you get into an argument with people, you've lost it. What you want is more, if you like, more light and less heat. And how do we get more light into a conversation? Well, basically like this. There is an anagram which you can use to remember this. It's called, well, it's AASAR, or the ASAR. Basically, when somebody objects or presents a complaint for that matter, acknowledge. And we acknowledge by showing them verbally, and non-verbally of course, that I hear you, I'm not threatened by it, and that's interesting, tell me about it. So show them on your face and in your body language that their objection, their condition, their complaint is a valid one and you're interested. So make sure they see this. Then when you've done that, ask and get them to make it specific. So get the details and ask open questions. Get deep inside their problem, their fears, their worries, their doubts. Listen carefully. And when you've listened carefully and they've run out of things to say, summarize back to them what you think you've heard. This does two things. It tells them, first of all, I heard you, I've taken you seriously, and secondly, it gives them a chance to correct you if you misunderstood. Once you've done that, don't just give them a reply, ask one more time. So say, look, is there anything else apart from that? If they say no, you know what the problem is, now you know what you're dealing with. Apart from that, because you've used this technique, they're going to like you a lot more. They're not going to feel intimidated or fearful. When you're ready with this, then give them a reply. Now, if you can't give them a reply, always tell them, look, I haven't got an answer to that, but I'll get back to you. And keep the promise that you make. Listen actively, so show them you're listening by making listening sounds and nodding your head and keeping eye contact with them. And never interrupt when people are expressing their needs, their fears, their objections. So that's another session from Paul Vincenti International. And remember, success is defined not by what you achieve, but by what you overcome. Thank you.